Alright, so now we're really gonna get into like some of the more actual shaping part of it. So we're gonna start, I think we're just gonna go around the model like and then shape each part at a time. So let's start with the face. So the face for human figures is, my opinion, is by far the most important part. Because like as human beings ourselves, like the first thing we look at usually is gonna be the face. So the face better be good. So I'm going to actually do this like a bigger version of the face, like just so you can see better. But I also encourage you to do so too, to practice, because you don't want to mess it up. This is my practice one, and so I'm gonna basically do that here. So go ahead and grab like, like a 15 centimeter square. This is a tracing paper. You can use kami or whatever you want. Yeah. Anyways, I'm also gonna show you the move from before. It's gonna look something like this. So basically, so we're gonna take this middle flap and we fold it in half, and then we're going to open it up, and it's going to be like this 3-unit slope thing. We basically just start with the 3-unit slope thing, or the line that's like slope of 3, like going from there to there as a valley. We should do it on both sides, like that. And then we just gotta kind of trust that if we can do that, when we close it, it will be nice and neat. So when I open it up, see, it all lies on nice slopes, which is, that takes some practice also. Now let's go ahead and start shaping the eyes. So we're going to take our flap. This is still a 1-unit flap. It's just shifted up a little bit. But yeah, this is still a 1-unit flap. It's shifted up a little bit, but it's still the same thing. And we're going to fold the corner back a little bit, so just kind of slant it a little bit. And on both sides. Now we're going to basically do like a bunch of pinches. So let's do a valley pinch, like about like a fourth of the way in. Sorry, did I say valley? Mountain pinch, like right here. So a fourth of this unit. And then another mountain, like 3/4. Then try to slope him in a little bit. Something like that. And then kind of the mountain in between, sure. And now we're just basically doing these. I'm going to use tweezers. If you have your tweezers, this helps. Well, so do like the tiniest pleat you can. This is tricky, but like a tiny little valley fold next to it. So, and then also one going this way. Something like that. And that will form like kind of the illusion of having like a robotic rectangular eye. Like that. So there's one. And it's not going to lie flat, but it's these creases won't go away, at least not completely. So don't worry too much. But then on the flip side, that means if you messed up, it will be hard to undo. So which is why we do a practice. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so these eyes look a little smaller, bigger, smaller. You can kind of shape it however you want. If you want to be really big brain, you can kind of shape different expressions. Like if you tilt like the eyes, you can make him like more angry or more worried, or I don't know, something like that. Okay, now for the mouth, we're gonna do so like we're gonna make a mountain like about 1/4 of the way in this unit. So like somewhere like around here-ish. And then we're gonna make some mountains going vertically down like halfway-ish. Over here too. And then we can make a mountain like 1/4 of the way, like right, basically like here-ish. Oh, and I forgot to mention like, well, yeah. Okay, and so we're the same, it's like one big version of the eye, but it's a little bit different on the bottom, because, you know, the eye was only on 3 sides, this one we have 4, so... Okay, so at the bottom, when this bottom pinch, this bottom pleat reaches the vertical ones, you can kind of make it this diagonal thing and fold it down, something like that. And again, you can change with the proportion, so sometimes you might want like a thinner mouth. Like, I think this one looks pretty good because it's a little bit more human-like. But if you want like a more robotic mouth, you can make it like less wide. So basically just, you know, make your vertical pleats closer together. And then this tip will fold it away. It's a little bit of a struggle to make it symmetrical. But let's see, what can we do? I think that looks okay. Some other things to make it a little bit more, like right now it looks kind of chubby, right? So we can kind of mold it into this more leaner shape, I guess. Like more defined cheekbones. Like it looks a little bit older, a little bit less chubby, babyish. Something like this. Getting faces right takes a lot of practice. So now that I've done that on the big one, let me give it a shot here on the small one. So I'm going to do the glue trick. So take my white glue, right, and then this small brush, just dip it in. You put a little bit on the brush, and then here's the pocket, so just kind of get it in there. Okay. On both sides. And then pinch. That'll make things a little easier when it's so small. And then same thing here. I think I'm gonna put some glue in there, and in there. And then on the other side, same thing. And then pinch together. So now it will act like one solid, a little bit thicker, but one layer rather than a bunch of layers. Now, earlier I said like the Pythagorean stretch thing is the hardest part of the collapse. Definitely, without a doubt, the eyes here are without a doubt the hardest part of shaping. And I think it's like that with most human figures. The face is the most important and also the hardest part. So I'm going to remember to do these little slope things. Kind of mount and fold it back a little bit. Gives you a little bit like that. So we start with our mountains, which again are going to be slanted inward a little bit. Okay. And then the valley pleats. So I think naturally, because of the way that this is not flat foldable, it's gonna want to curve itself, and chances are we don't really want that too much. We want eyes to be kind of more roundish, not curved in. So try to uncurve it if you see that happening. But overall, it's just a hard technique. So I made my eyes a little bit bigger here, but yeah. Okay, let's repeat. Okay, I think that's passable. Yeah, it's passable. You just kind of want to make that outline of eyes, otherwise it would be kind of a blank face. And I forgot what the word is called, but like as humans have a thing where we kind of see faces where there really aren't faces. So in this case, that kind of benefits us, because even if your shaping is not optimal, you can still kind of make the illusion of a face and people will believe it. So that's something to keep in mind. Let's do the mouth. So I'm gonna make my mouth a little bit more narrow this time. Yeah. I don't like this too much. I think I slanted my mouth too much. Let me try to undo, which is not easy, but I can kind of... I want my thing to be more vertical, also more symmetrical. Okay, now I'm starting to see like this left eye is like actually mad big, so I'm going to kind of modify it, tweak it a little bit to make it a little bit smaller. Like, oh, and then we'll do the same thing to make it a little less chubby by kind of curving in these sides here, making it more defined cheekbones, whatnot. Something like that is probably pretty good. And I gotta say, like, folding these faces is actually like, yeah, I find it pretty hard. It's definitely an exercise in patience and precision and tweezering. So don't give up if it's doesn't work for you at the first try. Well, that took over 20 minutes to shape the face. So yeah. Anyways, let's why don't we do the hair next? I think the hair is probably the second most important. The hair, we got these basically a bunch of spikes. So this one we can make into 2. So basically we want as many like as many edge lines as we can. And it'll make the illusion of having more hair. So something like this. And even if you want, you could even fold it back. That way this spike will look like it has more edges running through it. And therefore it might look like it's more hair. Something like that, you see? Okay. Okay, now this middle one you see it's actually 2. So we can kind of pleat it. And then we'll fold the thing down over here. And start curving the head. And that'll kind of somewhat lock it in place. We can start curling the hair too, make it look kind of nice and wavy. So now we can kind of just pleat it over. Even if it's not substantial, the pleat will kind of create an illusion, kind of like what we did with the eyes. That's another shaping trick. Something like that. Yeah. And then for the rest of it, we want to just make as many parallel lines as we can. So like, you know, kind of mush it up like that. I think we have a few edges we can mush down. So, and then we can, earlier I pulled apart the flaps here. We don't really need to pull them into distinct flaps, but we can separate the layers. So meaning something like, oh man, I wish I had 2 tweezers. But just widen out the layers. That'll just give us more hair, or the illusion of more hair. All about these illusions. Yeah, so see how it's kind of pulling apart there. So it's just giving us more hair, more room to work with. And you can kind of, it's not super exact. We're not, you know, it's not like we're counting the number of hair and shaping it exactly. This hair goes in this spot, right? It's just kind of get things kind of in the general area, make the illusion of having a lot of hair. You know, you get what I mean. You kind of mush things. Yeah, something like this. Just kind of make little like triangular flappy structures. Something. And then kind of have them, make sure they're going like kind of slanted down into the, you know, just kind of, you know, kind of get them slanted down into the left-ish. Asymmetrical. Always good. It also helps if you have a reference picture of like a kind of a haircut that you want of the character. Yeah, this is not great. It would be nice if the hair were a little longer, but I think it was a worth the trade-off, because if I had the hair longer, I would have had like a 34 grid or something, and no one likes that. So we go with the 32 grid with a decent haircut. Yeah. This one, I definitely shaped the left side a little bit more on this current one than this old one. But yeah, I think that's pretty good. Okay, now we're not gonna glue the neck yet, because that's more of a posing thing, where you gotta kind of shape each part before we kind of glue and pose it all together. Let's like take a break from the head, and we're gonna go and do this, I don't know what you would call it, but this flap here that kind of covers his front. Well, I mean, he's wearing pants, but like, okay. So what we want to do is, let me move these back flaps out of the way. But we're gonna start by pleating it. Just a little bit. And then kind of swivel it in. Kind of thin it out, kind of make it a little tapered, less rectangular, more kite shape. I don't know, but you know, you get the idea. Slanted in, kind of. And then what's gonna happen is a little weird, but kind of watch. So we're gonna take this one layer, okay, and kind of pull it out, and this is, yeah, something like that. So all these creases are gonna stay the same, except now we've pulled out this layer, and it goes nicely into the boot, like that. Makes sense? I'll show that again on the other side. So let's again swivel it in. And all except the last layer, the very or I don't know, top layer, first layer, just one layer is going to change. The rest are going to stay in this swivelly thing. So now we're going to go to the boot. This layer, kind of lift it up. Yeah, kind of free it, and then kind of just make the rest lie flat. Okay, looks pretty good. And now this flap, now this doesn't look so great, but we can use this flap here to cover it, which is very nice. Now let's go ahead and start gluing some of the legs. That'll just make things simpler. We can get it, if we can make things simpler, like what we said for the face, it's like if we can glue layers together so that they act like one layer rather than a bunch, that would be better. So I'm going to glue this layer to the layer behind it. So kind of like that. And then I'll put some glue into this pocket here. And then I will swivel a little bit. That'll kind of help us make our boot illusion to some degree. And then we also want to glue this pocket. Like we want this top seam to be as highlighted as we want this top seam because it's kind of like the boot edge, but this bottom seam doesn't help us too much, so we can glue this seam. So get your brush again, so put some under here. In this pocket here, we can put some in there. Yeah, and that's pretty good. And then we can start shaping the boot later. I guess another thing we can do, so again, we got this problem that like this is acting like two layers. All right, one, like the pocket. We're not gonna be doing that, so we can just glue it shut as like one layer. So let's open up the pocket, and then let me get some glue ready, mainly at the edges, because that will prevent it from opening up. But you don't really need to glue the whole thing super deep. And then press it tight. And so gluing this little flap and gluing the boot, I'm going to go ahead and do that on the other side. I guess a quick detail we can do right now, we can make the collar, or like, I don't know, but just kind of more of his clothing. So these flaps here, you can kind of just fold it out to the side. Yeah, let's kind of talk about the arms a little bit. So the arms, you kind of have to know what it's going to look like when how you're going to pose it. So this one, the reference pose I was given was he was kind of like telling off some little kids. So, he has his arm, one arm in a fist, the other arm like pointing away. I think I'll do something similar. I like having the fist on the hip, and the legs is pretty good. I'm just going to change his other arm to be kind of like, like a thinking face. So, like, hand on his chin, something like that. But regardless how you pose it, you can pose it however you want. A lot of the things are going to be the same. for example, I guess you call them shoulder straps, but like the things that go over the shoulders, those will always kind of be the same. So I'm going to fold the arm out. And you can actually stretch it a little bit farther than this. You might think this is the limit, but you can actually, with the power of mush, you can actually kind of stretch it out a little bit farther. It's ugly, but you know, people don't really see the backside too much, and if they do, it's not going to be super pretty anyway. So just mush it out. Then, I'm gonna try to get this shoulder thing. So kind of like what we did down there, but a little bit different. With this one, I'm just going to, so here's from the bottom, like from the bottom, right? See how it opens in symmetrically, right? So I'm going to take the second thing, this one, kind of pull it out like that. Okay. Flatten. So this is very similar idea. And this side that's open, I'm gonna have it pointing towards the head. And I flatten. So kind of pivot it like this. And it's also like before, we're gonna glue the pocket so that it just behaves like a single layer rather than like 2 layers. And this thing with the sleeve you can do on the other arm as well, because no matter how you pose it, you're probably going to want to do the sleeve the same way. So when we're ready, we're going to later, fold it down like this, kind of glue it in place goes under the square flap, but something like that. Okay. Okay, let me show how to do fists. So this kind of applies to just human figures in general. But as before, in a fist, you don't really need 5 finger flaps to make a fist. Because if you have a fist, you basically have 2 parts. You have a thumb sometimes, and like these fingers together act as one. Now you want to use like pleats or something to kind of make the differentiation between the fingers, but you don't need like 4 separate flaps because you're not going to be bending them. So in this fist, I actually did not do a thumb. Perhaps I could have, but I didn't. So I'm going to, if I know I'm going to have my thing bent like this, I'm going to have my arm bent. And I know that to think like this is the arm fist, the thumb's going to be on top. So I might, if I want a thumb, I'm going to need to have it on top and on the inside. So like, you know what, let me just skip the thumb. Okay. So first thing, I'm going to make a horizontal line. So basically, think like, see a fist. Okay, see the back of a fist? This is what we're going for. So if you look on the back of the fist, we have like, the back of the fist has no lines. It'll be smooth. And then up here, they're not separate flaps, but we're gonna have vertical lines. So let's kind of make that. So let's start with like the back of the hand. So the same view, right? Like this, like this. So let's start with that line. So I'm gonna just kind of make a horizontal crease like that. And then kind of swivel it down. So that made a horizontal line. And now we basically gotta do whatever we can to make horizontal, or make these vertical pleats afterwards. So I'm gonna be super cheap. And I'm just gonna show you on the back of this head here, kind of what's going on. So imagine this is my hand flap, right? This flap, this flap. So I've got my pleats here. I'm gonna start with a kind of a swivel like that. Yeah. Okay, then I'll do another swivel. Don't worry if they don't line up. Just do it. Okay. And we do another swivel or so. This one, I'm just gonna swivel it in the normal way, like that. So it's kind of messy, but I've got kind of the basis of like a bunch of fingers. So, well, we'll keep going. So now I can, so let's look at our reference again. So see how this side is shorter and it kind of slants upwards. So let's kind of do the same. Like that, something like that. And then these fingers, we can kind of curl them in like that. And then it would have the illusion of being a fist, sort of. And then, so let me do that here. Yeah. Also, no one really looks too close at the hands. If you can do it, great, but that's awesome. But if you can't make the hands look super good, don't worry about it too much. No one really cares. It will still look like yeah, your model will still look great even without good fingers, so don't stress too much. So there's our fist, something like a fist. And then you see how the hand kind of slopes into a wrist. So let's make a wrist. And then now, when we pose it, it's just basically waiting to be posed now. So it's not posed yet. Posing means like shaping is like making all the parts. So like we have a face ready and we have a hair ready. We have our boots. Well, our boots aren't shaped, but you get the idea. And then posing is like, okay, I want my legs to look like this. I want my arms to look like this. And then I want my head to be kind of turned to the side. That's posing. So we'll do that later. Okay. Now let me show you how to shape this other hand, this pointing hand. So if we look at our pointing finger, what do we see? There's three important aspects. We got a thumb, our index finger, and these three don't need to be three individual fingers. They're not going to be moving. They just need to be one together. And kind of like before, but with with the illusion of edges in between to differentiate the fingers. So I'm going to bend out the arm as far as I can. So I'm going to mush it again. I've actually sort of messed up a little bit. The crease pattern that we folded and the base that we have so far is actually made for this kind of pose with like the pointed arm. If you want to do like a bent, like thinking arm, like this one, we're going to have to modify the sleeve a little bit. Like this left sleeve, or yeah. So I'm going to show you how to fix that. So we actually shouldn't have pulled this out just yet. So if you already did it, hopefully you didn't glue it. But we actually want to undo that. And if we want to do this thinking pose, we're actually going to take this edge flap and we're going to move it down 1 unit. So what that means is kind of squash it here. And then this is our new point. This is over here. This is our new point, and we're just going to just LI stretch it, kind of. And now the base of the flap is closer to the main body. And now, once we did that, now we're able to pull the layers apart, just like before. There we go. And yeah, so basically the same thing from this point. Something like that. Okay. Yeah. So why don't we go ahead and keep shaping? So I'm going to show you how to glue the neck now. So what we're going to do is, like, we're just going to put a bunch of glue in all these gaps and these layers, because the neck's kind of thick. We're going to put a bunch of glue in all the layers, and then we'll shape the neck. So let's get our white glue again. Our brush, dip the brush in. And you kind of look inside, peel the layers apart. You don't need to glue in between every layer, but at least in like 3 gaps or so-ish. Should be good. So put some in there. Just a few layers over. Stick it in. And let's do another layer. That should be good. So we can squeeze it shut. Ish. And now let's do the other side before we shape. So and maybe like one more or so. Oh wait, when we shape the neck, we're going to do some like mountains like this. Kind of diagonal like that. And then at the bottom, the mountains are, it's kind of like a triangular neck, sort of. Something like this. And then we want to make this mountain fold across here, like the collarbone. So bend that back. And then like, kind of just shape the neck. And since we have glue on the inside, it should hold its shape when we're done. One thing we can do just right away, we can just, this is our belt, we can just kind of glue it down over our thing here. So let's get the glue again. So let's actually put some in here, like here first. And then we can put some on this top part. And then just kind of pinch everything together. Yeah, good. What else can we do? On the sides, his jacket-ish, we can kind of fold that away. Don't fold it too sharply, but just kind of fold it in a little bit, bend it away. But definitely not too sharp. In the back, these are the cape. I don't know what you call these, but these things on the side. Let's go ahead and kind of pleat them, kind of bend them outwards. And then when we're ready, we will like kind of wrap it around like this. But for now, we can kind of just bend them outward. It'll just make things a little bit easier. You may have to mush a little bit. That's okay. Why don't we work on the feet a little bit? So for the feet, on the legs, we're going to fold the tips back, fold the corners back. You can leave a little gap if you want between these two mounted folds, something like this, on both sides. And then valley fold up. And then kind of bend the boot while keeping the toes forward. So end up doing something kind of like this. Bend the boot, keep the toes forward. Something like that, yeah. Okay, we'll repeat that on the other side. So kind of curve here. Yeah, something like that. And then when we get closer to the thighs, up here, we can start swinging those in. Now, it's up to you if you want to pose the legs. Like for this one, I kind of spread them out a little bit, bent the left leg. It's up to you. I think I will kind of swing them out a little bit so it's not, you know, you want to have the feet basically under the shoulders, right? Shoulder length apart. I think that's pretty good. And he can just be standing there. He doesn't need to be running or kicking or anything, but you're welcome to try. Just something kind of plain, simple. And then when we're ready, later, I may or may not show it, but you want to put a little bit of glue like right here on this corner, and then swing it over and kind of press it flat onto this part of the thigh, like around here, and then you can shape this thing and kind of whatever. But we won't do that quite yet. Let's do the thinking hand. So actually, I guess the thinking hand and the pointing hand, so the thinking hand looks good from the back of the hand, and the pointing hand looks good from the front. So I'm just gonna show the thinking hand because I think that's a little bit more iconic. So here's the thing. So here's how do I angle? This is what the hand looks like, right? It looks something like this. So the three important parts are the thumb, the finger, and then these guys. So again, these are three fingers. They are not independent. So we just need to make like the illusion of just one big flap and make the illusion of it being three fingers. So the way we do that, if we look from here, our thumb is going to be this point here, and then our index finger is going to be this point here, and then our other fingers will be over here. So if we reverse fold here, this is our index finger. Let's do a reverse fold. So this is the second, please. We'll reverse fold there. Okay. Now we want to kind of raise the thumb part. So if we kind of just go like this, we now see that we're a little bit sticking up above the hand. That's going to be our thumb. See that? Okay. And then we can swivel something like this, and then that will create the gap between the thumb and the finger. Yeah, something like that, kind of good enough. Yeah, so the thumb is not its own flap. It's just this little thing sticking out that looks like a thumb. Okay, something like that is pretty good. Now let's do the fingers. So the fingers, we just need to, it's kind of like what we did before. So remember when we look at fingers, we got this section here that has no vertical lines. And then after this line up, you got these vertical lines between the fingers. So we're going to make our horizontal line. Like that. It's kind of like what we did with the fist, basically. So horizontal line like that. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and use our tweezers and kind of force those parallel lines. And of course, these are just, you know, if you can't get these, it's not a huge deal. They're just tiny details. But here's how to do them if you want. And we only need 3 also, so that's pretty easy. We don't want more than 3 fingers. Let's thin out the index finger a little bit. Just kind of mush it. If you have to, you can just mush it if you have to. And then we're going to curl these 3 index fingers. Just curl them around. So yeah, these hands, both hands are actually pretty hard in this model. And if you want, it's actually definitely worth it to do a practice test fold of it beforehand. But the thing is, like, it is hard to get right, but unlike the face, right, the hand is not a super critical part of the model. If you mess up the hand, people probably won't notice. Like, yeah, it's again, like the reason why faces is so important is because that's what we look at as humans. Like, we usually see each other's faces, and faces are what, like, the uncanny valley is subject to, like, faces and making faces look weird, but the hands don't really have those effects as much. So if your hand is not completely anatomically correct, it won't be as obvious. We can go ahead and start figuring out how our pose is going to work. So for this strap is going to go over the shoulder, like that. Now obviously this is getting in the way of the bend, so let's somewhat like thin it out, sorta. Or yeah, let's thin it out a little bit. Let's thin it out a little bit. And then that way. Yeah, that's pretty good. And now it has enough room to swing over to the chin. So when we think we're ready, we can kind of just put some glue underneath the corner here. Or actually, let's glue this down first. And I'll put the glue over here on the corner. And then bring it down. Just kind of pinch it together. Yeah. I think actually this corner looks weird. Let's fold in that corner here. Probably a little, I should have done that earlier, but it's not too late. Something like this. Yeah? So let's round off these corners, like let's round off that shoulder corner, and also around the elbow we can see if we can round it off to a little bit, so it doesn't look quite as rectangular. Okay. Alright, now for this other arm, let's do the same thing. So let's go ahead and set the strap first. So it kind of bends over like this. And then I find it good if we kind of pleat it first. I think that usually helps a little bit. So pleat it. And then also, as always, tuck in the corners. Round that off. Okay, we can glue this whole thing together. So, little glue there, little glue here. Kind of press the whole thing together. And now, again, so under this corner right there, we'll go ahead and glue that down. Okay, for this elbow arm, one thing you can do is kind of tuck it under the chin. Or actually, let's make sure the chin is, or otherwise we don't want him to be looking up like this. That's weird. So what we can do is we just put a lot of glue in this hinge there, kind of a lot. Like, see how much I got on my brush here? I would consider that a lot. Kind of brush that in. It'll kind of soak through the layers too. So, and then you pinch on top, because that's where the glue is. And we also kind of want to round the top a little bit. And that will kind of set the face in place. If you want, you can also, if you want to make his face like tilting a little bit, now is a good time to do it. Like that. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, tilt it like this. While the glue is still not completely dry yet. That's good. And then once that's ready, we're going to, hold the hand under the chin like that. And so that way, and then glue here. That way, when it dries, everything will be set. But we'll do that in a little bit. What's next? Okay, now why don't we go ahead and do the thing down here? So we'll put some glue in the corner there. So underneath maybe if you want, and then on top. Put like a decent amount here. And then kind of hold it over and just kind of pinch it. Just hold it there. Okay, and then same thing on the other side. So remember, the glue is just kind of to hold it in place, right? This is not a, right, it's still, definitely still origami. We're still mostly relying on the folding. And in theory, like if we're using foil paper or something that can hold itself, we wouldn't need to glue. And also in theory, water could work, but maybe not as strong, but it still works. So we're not, I used to think like if we use glue, that's cheating, but it's really not. It's just it's making a good model look better. That's basically what's going on. So glue is not cheating, in my opinion. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my finger along the back here and kind of pinch like that. And that will help to round out the belt and the model. Maybe actually probably a better idea to do that once this part is dried. Probably. I might have to re-glue this left side. Okay, it's all starting to come together, huh? So we're not too far off. I guess for this hand here, this other arm, you know, as always, just kind of bend it. Something like that. It's not super complicated. Just kind of bend it, yeah. Here's the other arms for reference. These two guys. No, actually, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and put a little bit of glue here. I'm only gonna put it towards the base. And I only really need to glue it down so that I can kind of curve the waist a little bit more. Otherwise, it looks a little bit wide, which is not really the look we're going for. So let's thin him out a little bit. Curve him around and also make him look a little more 3D. Yeah, I think this looks pretty good. And then you can just let everything glue and harden. What I meant with this, the elbow here. So I'm gonna. Well, I don't think this neck part is dry yet, but basically I'm going to put some glue on the elbow here. And hopefully that will soak through. And when that's done, maybe I can put some on the inside too. So when that's done, the elbow will not unfold itself. Like right now, see how it's unfolding himself? And we want the hand to stay on the chin. We don't really want to glue the hand to the face. That's not a great idea either. But something like this is pretty good. Okay, I think I've shown everything for this model. The rest is kind of up to you. Kind of fiddle around with it. You know, curve these things if you want, wave them, make them wavier, pose it however you want to, kind of bend the legs a little bit, pose the arms. I think I've shown you most of the model, and the rest is up to you. So I think that's about it for this tutorial. Thanks for folding. I hope it went well for you. Feel free to post it on anywhere, tag me. I'd love to see how it turned out for you. And make sure to subscribe on this channel and also follow me on Instagram. The link should be in the description. Thanks for watching, thanks for folding, and I will see you later.